As the jets taxi home in the heat of the Nevada sun, the commander-leader knows his pilots and crews are prepared for the demanding schedule that lies ahead. After 3 months of grueling practice, this Thunderbird team is ready to carry on the tradition.
In our organization, we work anywhere between 12, 16 hours a day. We work until the job is done. So there's really no such thing as overtime.
In the heat of the desert sun, the temperature inside the Thunderbird hangar often climbs to over 100 degrees. But the work goes on. This aircraft is scheduled to fly to Tucson in less than 12 hours. And if it means working all night, it will leave on time. A sophisticated fighter like the F-16 is actually a marriage of computers, pneumatics, hydraulics, electronics, fuel systems, miles of wire, and one very powerful engine. All the parts must function in perfect harmony. After every 150 hours of flight, the plane must undergo a phase inspection. The entire plane is literally disassembled. Although each member of the Thunderbird maintenance crew has a specific responsibility, everyone chips in to expedite the phase inspection. It's not unusual to see an engine specialist assisting with the installation of a flight control computer, or a radar technician helping to change a hydraulic actuator. If there was ever a serious national emergency, within 48 hours, this crew would have the demonstration aircraft restored to combat-ready status. Military gray would replace the fancy red, white, and blue paint scheme. When these technicians complete their 2-year tour of duty with the team, they'll share their experiences as Thunderbirds with Air Force squadrons stationed all over the world. The Thunderbird crew has the right to be proud of its work. Since the team was formed over 3 decades ago, there has never been a performance canceled or curtailed for maintenance reasons.
Well, when I was little, believe it or not, I was afraid of flying. I used to go flying with one of my dad's friends, and I used to hold on for dear life.
Captain Bert Nelson, the team's narrator, also flies media flights in the 2-seat B-model F-16. Like the other pilots, Bert spends some of his time corresponding with young people who write to the Thunderbird Squadron.
Well, I think the kids look up to us because what we do is exciting. We interact with them a lot on the road. We get to go see them sometimes in kids' hospitals. We get to talk to them. We obviously get a lot of them in the crowd line. And we get letters from them here in the squadron, some of them just asking about what the flying's like or what we do here. Some people asking for pictures. They're pretty important to all of us, really. They're the future for the Air Force and for the country. And when we interact with them, obviously we're trying to set a good example for them, maybe as a role model for them to look up to someday. We can affect their lives in a lot of ways by setting this good example and telling them a little bit about our job.
How do you put these straps on?
Okay, when we go out to fly, we have a harness that we wear, and it's got a couple clips on the top of it. There's one on each side that goes over our shoulders, and that's what hooks us into the ejection seat.
That's what I'm gonna ask.
It's like a little TV screen, but it's our radar. Talking about wanting to see the engine back there where all the thrust comes from. They ask what it's like to fly in the airplanes. Sometimes what it's like to work around the Thunderbird Squadron. Talking to them, we can tell them the ways we get here. It just doesn't happen overnight that you get here. But what we have to remember is you got to do the best you can at whatever you're doing. And eventually, you keep working, and hopefully you'll achieve the goal that you've set for yourself.
In 1969, the Thunderbirds began flying the powerful F-4 Phantom. For a period of several years, the Navy's Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds flew the same type of aircraft. Retired General Thomas Swalm commanded the team from 1969 to 71.
The F-4, of course, was an anomaly at that time in aviation laurels. It was a very powerful airplane. It's the first time we came along with an airplane that could maneuver as well and do the things that we were able to put in an air show from a power perspective so much easier than we could in the past. Also, of course, it was the airplane that was probably getting as much attention as any in Vietnam. It was an airplane the Air Force relied on very heavily for both its air superiority mission and also its air-to-ground mission, delivering ordnance for our own U.S. Army. So a great airplane, and one that I think a lot of people wanted to see in the air show environment in those years 1970, 71, 72, and 73 as the Vietnam War was drawing down. And of course, the F-4 has to go down in history as being the aircraft that flew not only the best air show, but the loudest.
The F-4 also consumed a lot of fuel, and during the energy crisis of 1974, the Thunderbird switched to the fuel-efficient T-38 trainer.
This was the first time that the Thunderbird team had gone from a frontline fighter, if you will, to a trainer-type aircraft. Also, every single Air Force pilot could relate to the T-38 because in those days, as we still do today, all Air Force pilots flew the T-38 as part of their basic pilot training. Some of the disadvantages of the airplane, it didn't have all the power that we would like for it to have in performing the aerial maneuvers that the demonstration required. It also did not have air refueling capability, so that meant when we went from Nellis Air Force Base, our home, to the East Coast, it required 3 hops, which made a very long day out of it just getting around. And it also limited us essentially to the continental U.S. The Thunderbird team has a tradition of excellence and trying very, very much to perfect everything they do. The feeling was that we knew we would never fly that perfect air show, but we always tried.
This is News Center 9 with Guy Atchley, Stephanie White, weather with Robin Zimmerman, and sports with Dave Silver.
What's it like to fly with the Thunderbirds? The Air Force flying team is in town for a couple of shows this weekend, and they picked a member of the media to experience the ultimate roller coaster ride. Our Margarita Zavala is the one they chose, and here's her story.
The Thunderbirds arrive in Tucson the day before the season's first scheduled air show. First on the agenda is a media flight with a local news anchorwoman. Before she takes off, Margarita Zavala must go through an hour of training and familiarization that would be critically important in the unlikely event of an in-flight emergency.
So now the next thing that's going to happen is she's going to be fitted by Sergeant Schenkelberg with the G-suit and the helmet and the mask that she's going to wear. He's going to do a quick fitting to get it all rigged up for her.
So what this is going to do, it's going to press so hard against your lower extremities, there's like air bladders in there. And what it'll do is force that butt back up into your head.
Good.
And that'll keep it from passing out. It's a good
The
invention.
blood wouldn't rush out of my head?
The Thunderbirds promote the Air Force. By doing media flights, the team and their upcoming air show receive coverage on local television newscasts.
Okay, Marty, first thing we'll do is sign some papers here just so you don't hold Lance blame here for anything. And actually, this is an enlistment form. We want to get you in the Air Force here.
We're going to climb to about 17,000 feet. Feel your G-suit inflate around you, and you'll feel that feeling that you get when you... have you ever ridden the Hammer at the carnival?
I try to stay away from
You try to stay away from those. Well, we're not going to be too tough on you, but we'll do this one.
In less than 20 minutes, anchorwoman Margarita Zavala is taxiing for takeoff, and the Air Force is on television. It's 6:30 a.m. Saturday morning. Today is the first scheduled air show of the season. At dawn, the Thunderbird crew is already at work, preparing for the afternoon's main event. Tucson is one of the earliest scheduled air shows of the season, and its proximity to Nellis makes it an ideal shakedown cruise. Although Davis Monthan Air Force Base is a modern fighter training center, it's best known as the storage center for obsolete aircraft. These proud planes have outlived their usefulness to America's military. They've been replaced with newer ones that fly higher, faster, and farther. Over 3,000 of these old warbirds sit in the dry Arizona air at Davis Monthan. Some will be used for spare parts. Others await their final flight as a pilotless drone, a target for today's advanced weaponry. The first 707 helped introduce the world to commercial jet travel and now awaits her final journey to Washington's Air and Space Museum. There's a feeling of excitement in the air as the crowd pours into the base. And it's not just the planes. It's a beautiful day to spend in the sunshine with the entire family. A day to see and touch aircraft that most people only get to read about in books and magazines. A performance by the Thunderbirds always attracts a huge audience, and today is no exception. Over 100,000 people are on hand to see the team's first official air show of the season. Men, women, boys, girls. The crowd's a true cross-section of America.
All right, let's get going here.
The Thunderbirds are always the grand finale of an air show. While the acts that precede them perform for the crowds, the officers of the team meet for a final pre-flight briefing. With over 100,000 spectators, nothing can be left to chance.
Questions on those? Quickest assays if you
All aspects of the upcoming demonstration are reviewed. The logistics officer, or loggie, reports on wind conditions above the field. The pilots review safety procedures. Safe ejection areas are memorized.
If you have it aboard on the runway.
For the unlikely event of a flameout at low altitudes.
Let's make it a good, safe one. Remember, there is no pressure to complete a maneuver that's not set up properly. Abort the maneuver. A lot of people will be watching us and are cheering for us. So let's make it a good, safe one and go out and do a good one.
All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 30 minutes of superb precision flying by America's premier aerial demonstration team, the United States Air Force Thunderbirds. For some 37 years now, this team of aviation professionals has taken the Air Force story to the American people, demonstrating through performance those special...
All eyes are on the Thunderbird pilots as the last 3 months of practice and all the team effort are about to be tested. The Thunderbirds are a military squadron performing at a military base, but the FAA has jurisdiction because civilians are present.
The FAA monitors the show for both the show line and the fact that nobody's out there, and for the air show itself, that nothing gets too loose or too low or anything of that sort.
As the team takes off in full afterburner, each of the jets develops over 24,000 pounds of thrust. Translated into horsepower, each F-16 is more powerful than 5 diesel locomotives. The commander leader lines the Thunderbirds up for the first pass by the crowd, the traditional 4-ship diamond. To keep the show at a fast-moving pace, whenever the formation exits show center, the number 5 and 6 jets perform their exciting solos. This maneuver looks like fun, but it's actually performed to demonstrate a pilot's ability to control a high-performance aircraft at near minimum controllable airspeeds. There's never more than a few seconds between maneuvers. During the demonstration, the pilots fly along an imaginary show line. For safety reasons, the show line is at least 1,500 feet away from the crowd line, and those distances are carefully monitored. For obvious reasons, the Thunderbirds don't break the sound barrier during their airshow demonstration, but on some of the solar maneuvers, the speed is very close. To the earthbound crowd, many of the routines look like spectacular daredevil stunts, but they're actually part of every Air Force pilot's training. The Thunderbirds just fly them lower and tighter. They call this the crossover break, and to the startled spectators, it looks like the jets were flying side by side. Some of the simplest maneuvers, like this slow roll, are the hardest to perfect. Several times during the performance, all 6 jets joined together for breathtaking examples of formation flight. The grand finale of the air show is the bomb burst, and it's a Thunderbird trademark. As the 4-ship diamond splits apart in a vertical climb, each pilot heads to a different compass point. The solo pilot spirals through the center. From the ground, the smoke trails look like the petals of a giant flower. With careful timing and critical altitude separation, the jets appear to just miss each other at the crossover. 40 minutes after engine start, the first air show of the season is over. 5 minutes later, the 6 F-16s are back on Earth. When the men and women of the Thunderbird team join the military, they never thought they'd be heroes, but they are. Because they're not just Thunderbirds. They're representatives of the 600,000 men and women who serve their country in the United States Air Force.
Free for me.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. There. How you doing? Today.
Fine.
Hello, how are you today?
Perfect.
Great.
It's a great show. Appreciate it.
Well, we enjoyed doing it. There you go.
Thanks, sir.
You're welcome. Was I out of position anyway?
Not at all.
You didn't know?
I watched you very carefully. Kept my eye on you.
How you doing? Your favorite maneuver? What's your favorite thing we did today? It was a quiz. Pick one of those solo maneuvers on one side. Y'all from Tucson here? Yes. Is that right? All the pilots come on. The team has at least 1,000 hours already to get flyers. I know, but I'll have all night to work it out.
There you go.
Will do. How'd you like the show? What school do you go to? How does the South Point fight song go? Would you sing it for everybody? Not even pre-printed? Yeah, you get the real workers in there, I'm telling you. We don't go anywhere without these guys. Hey, Tom, how's it going? Not bad, well, I'm just starting out. You might be the right time.
In the desert lands of North America, Indian legend boasts a great deity with the power to control the forces of good over evil. A huge, magnificent creature, born to the sky with wings of thunder, to rule the celestial regions with awesome command and terrific explosions of light and sound. The god Thunderbird. Just north of Las Vegas, in the desert region of southern Nevada, stands Nellis Air Force Base, home to Air Force pilots and support staff, flying virtually every type of aircraft. Nellis is also home to America's premier air demonstration team, the Thunderbirds. More than 100 Air Force men and women in more than 35 different career fields work as part of the Thunderbirds team at Nellis each day. Each of them committed to keeping the Thunderbird legend alive, each dedicated to perfection and the Thunderbirds mission. Only the best men and women in the Air Force are chosen to be members of the Thunderbirds team. From the core of over 100,000 Air Force officers, only 11 officers are currently assigned to the squadron. 6 as demonstration pilots, 3 as support officers, 1 as logistics officer, and 1 as narrator. The support team occupies every career field necessary to keep the Thunderbirds flying. Everything from technical support to public relations. But to be a part of the Thunderbirds team, individuals must possess more than vocational skills. Of course, they are all top-rated in their fields, but to meet the standards of the Thunderbirds team, they must have an outstanding record of performance and a marked dedication to professionalism. These individuals must possess a drive for perfection and personal excellence. They must be willing to give 110%, always, because these men and women help safely drive the machine that is the Thunderbirds. Newcomers to the team have a challenge of record ahead of them. In over 30 years, not a single show has been canceled due to maintenance failure. Only the constant drive of each team member to meet the highest standards ensures the success and splendor of the world-famous air demonstration show, polished Thunderbird style. Each aerial show begins here in the hangar with the crew chiefs, assistant crew chiefs, and a variety of specialists devoted to keeping the aircraft up to the highest standards of safety, efficiency, and performance. Each F-16 demonstration aircraft must pass the rigors of detailed inspection before the pilots strap on the seatbelt harnesses. Each jet is checked for cracks in its structures. Each operational system gleaned for any signs of trouble. If any system comes up less than 100% efficient, it is stripped and repaired. Safety at all costs is top priority here on the ground. When a Thunderbirds pilot straps in, he must be confident that all systems have been thoroughly examined and that utmost precaution has been taken at every step of the examination process to ensure his safety. The result is a unique bond between pilot and crew, a relationship based on ultimate trust.
Here in a squadron, the bond between the assistant crew chief, the pilot, and the crew chief is very special. You won't find that anywhere else in the Air Force because we work with each other day after day, flight after flight, hour after long hour, and we get to know each other inside and out, what we like and what we dislike, and how we work and what we don't like to do. So it's a very special relationship.
The hours of a Thunderbird aircraft maintenance officer are long, often from 12 to 20 hours per day, 5 days a week, with never-ending details to attend to and a long list of new problems to troubleshoot after each flight. The job is a constant challenge.
My days start around 2 a.m. when I get up in the morning. Usually to work at 3 a.m. and takeoff's not till about 7 or 8 usually. All those hours are spent preparing the aircraft for flight, making sure it's safe.
Despite the long hours and hard work, you won't find a team member willing to trade this assignment. The Thunderbird's patch he wears is a covenant, a testimony that he is among the best in his field. When a position opens up in the elite squadron, the vacancy is met with stacks of applications from Air Force personnel assigned to posts worldwide. To work on the Thunderbirds team is to reach the pinnacle of what the United States Air Force represents. The Thunderbirds team, Air Force professionalism, expertise, and a fine-tuned team effort help reaffirm Air Force pride and demonstrate modern American air power. Air Force officers applying for Thunderbird pilot selection must have at least 1,000 flying hours in a high-performance jet aircraft before submitting their requests for a position on the team. Background and experience are carefully examined by current team members. And semifinalists are taken on an actual Thunderbird deployment to test not only their skills, but their nerve while flying a top-performance machine like the F-16 Fighting Falcon. At minimum wingtip clearance, the usual combat maneuvers, such as loops and rolls, are given a seemingly overwhelming edge in tight-knit formation. All Thunderbird team members are volunteers and start their service on the Thunderbirds team with a 21-day orientation, where they learn about the history of the team and its operation, and the unique systems of the Thunderbird aircraft. Thunderbird officers serve a 2-year tour with the team. One half of the demonstration pilots rotate each year. But the unparalleled teamwork and professionalism of the team, and the experience of being a part of the renowned Thunderbirds air demonstration show lasts a lifetime.
My favorite maneuver that we fly in the show sequence here at the Thunderbirds is the last maneuver in the show, and that's the bomb burst. What it encompasses is an incredible amount of teamwork. It's exhilarating. We take the diamond formation and we start a pull right before show center, and then right in front of the crowd, we pull it into vertical, and then we all explode in different directions. Following that, one of the solos comes straight up through our flight path and straight up, continuously doing aileron rolls until he's out of sight. From there, we all pull back together and cross at the same time, right over a point right next to the crowd. That